The Buried Alive model, often referred to as its code, the Buryman script, was found to be on the final story of the Pokemon Tower in what has now been replaced with the Marowak Ghost. According to the scripts assigned to it, the Buried Alive model was intended to be the boss of the Pokemon Tower. Once reaching the top floor, the following conversation would have taken place. You're here. I'm trapped, and I'm lonely, so very lonely. When you join me? After this, the battle would have initiated once in a battle view. The Buried Alive model appears to be a decaying human corpse attempting to crawl out of its ground. It has been programmed to have two white hands, a Gengar, and a Muk. Strangely enough, a protocol for the Buried Alive's actions after it was defeated were not written. In the case of the player defeating him, the game would freeze. However, a specific ending was written by an unknown programmer upon losing the battle. In this ending, the Buried Alive would have stated, "Finally, fresh meat," followed by several lines of gibberish. He was to have then dragged the player character into the ground surrounding him. The scene would have finished with a typical game over screen. However, in the background, an image of the Buried Alive character devouring the player would have been shown. Especially strange are the protocols for after this scene. The cartridge was to download this image to the small interior memory contained in the Game Boy, overriding the title screen that normally accompanied a Game Boy turning on. Instead, whatever it started, the player would view this image as the sound file static mesh.wave was played. The intended purpose for this effect, unlike many of the other factors leading towards Lavender Town Syndrome, is unknown. The Lavender Town Syndrome, also known as the Lavender Town Tone or Lavender Town Suicides, was a peak in suicides and illness of children between the ages of 7 to 12. Shortly after the release of Pokemon Red and Green in Japan back in February 27, 1996, rumors say that these suicides and illness only occurred after the children playing the game reached Lavender Town, whose theme music had extremely high frequencies that studies show that only children and young teens can hear, since their ears are a little more sensitive. Due to the Lavender Tone, at least 200 children supposedly committed suicide, and many have developed illnesses and afflictions. The children who committed suicide usually did so by hanging or jumping from heights. Those who did not acted irrationally complained of severe headaches after listening to Lavender Town's theme. Although Lavender Town now sounds differently depending on the game, this mass hysteria was caused by the first Pokemon game release. After the Lavender Tone incident, the programmers had fixed Lavender Town's theme to be at a lower frequency, and since children were no longer affected. One video in 2010 using special software to analyze the audio of Lavender Town's music when played, the software created images of the unknown near of the end of the audio. This raised a controversy since the unknown didn't appear until the Generation 2 game Silver, Gold, and Crystal. The unknown translates to leave now. There is also the said beta version of Lavender Town. It is said that the beta version of Pocket Monsters was released to some kids to test the games. This is the video of the beta version of Lavender Town. And that's 2 Pokemon creepypastas done in one video. So yeah, talk about a 2 for 1. Anyways, let's talk about this story. I want to get this out of the way. These stories are not real, alright? None of these ever happened. There was never a moment where these actually happened. There was never a mass hysteria caused by Pokemon Lavender Town. There was an actual Pokemon hysteria, and I'll talk about that later. And one, there was never a uncut boss from the game in the beta version. There was never, any Buried Alive coded in the game. So yeah, let's just get that out of the way. We'll first talk about Buried Alive. Buried Alive was a pretty decent story when it first came out. A lot of people thought it was real. Of course, they did some digging in the Japanese versions and even in some of the betas, especially later on when Pokemon had their betas leaked. They never existed. It never existed. Pokemon never made a boss like that. It would be too gruesome to make. It's not to say, though, that Pokemon have done dark things. Oh, no, they've done definitely, some dark subjects or, moments, but something like to that extent, I don't think they would do, especially with the player, getting killed by a dead corpse. That's a little too far-fetched. I will say this, though, the sprite work is pretty decent along with the video, and actually what I do find interesting is the the trainer, I guess, Buried Alive. He has 2 Pokemon that are white hand, and if you remember in Lavender Town, there's a girl that tells you, do you believe in ghosts? And if you say yes or no, I forgot which one, He says, "Oh, then the white hand on your shoulder isn't there probably." So I do like that little callback to that little moment. Um, what I do like also about this story is that it doesn't really try to be too big or try to do anything, dramatic or excessive. Where because of this boss, it was cut because it would cause players depression or horrible dreams and nightmares, and they wanted to off themselves. Like, no, it doesn't do that. It just presents itself as it presents itself like a fact, like, oh yeah, this is an uncut boss from the game. And I like that. And also what I like is that it connected itself to the Lavender Town Syndrome story, which is sort of, I guess, a nice connection between the two, which does lead me to talking about Lavender Town Syndrome. Now, Lavender Town Syndrome is, again, I said it never happened. This would have caused a huge outcry by the media if this ever happened. Now, there was somewhat of a similar case of Pokemon back when the cartoon rolled around. Basically, there was an episode of Pokemon where Pikachu struck a lightning bolt to some missile or something. There was a Porygon. I don't remember the episode from the top of my head, but basically, Pikachu struck a missile and the colors were flashing, red, blue, and white, and it caused a seizure for kids in Japan, and the episode was pulled and banned and never allowed on air. And actually, this also caused Porygon to be banned ever from the anime, hence why you rarely ever see a Porygon in the anime. But that's really as close as you can get. There was never any, reports of kids getting depressed or, mysterious, dying from the Lavender Town music. The video does say, links to a beta of, I guess, Lavender Town. I don't know if that's actually the case. I think it might be, but yeah, Lavender Town, the music itself doesn't do anything. It's, it maybe hurts the ears for some people, but I listened to it, didn't really do anything. And even back then, when I listened to the song when I was younger, didn't really do anything to me either back then. So yeah, either A, I have special ears, or B, this is just a bunch of bullshit. The story itself is pretty decent. It keeps itself short. It sort of writes itself like a news article or a hidden text in a library, like a secret report or something. I will say though, like the parts where it says that if you put it in a, like, I think what was an image scanner, or like, it's a weird program where you can put music and like it creates an image, where it says that it creates the unknown. I don't know if that's real or not, if someone has actually done that, but that's kind of creepy and weird. But it's not too far off from the idea of Game Freak making Pokemon and then not saving them for the next game. They've done that before. But yeah, those are really my thoughts on the stories. They're pretty good. They're short. I recommend reading them, and I'll leave a link in the description below. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to check out my other videos, and my social media will be in the description below. And with that being said, I am out.